What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out the U.S. Navy sinks the Super-Battleship Yamato, Operation Tengo animated by the Operations Room. This channel, I believe, has been suggested to me before, but I know I just watched a video recently on the Yamato, and I saw this in one of my recommended, so I thought I'd check it out because it seemed interesting. So let's jump in.
Thanks to Conflicts of Nations for sponsoring this video. Conflicts of Nations is a
so low quality
player versus player strategy game.
All right, I'm back. I don't know why I was doing that.
Game, where you can lead a real country in modern global warfare. Set in the 20th and 21st century, research and make use of over 100 modern weapon systems to build your army and compete
some fast-firing tanks, huh?
Players in real time over weeks. Declare war on your neighbours or forge alliances as strong as the coalition of Desert Storm. Conflicts of Nations is cross-platform, so that you can compete with your friends on both PC and mobile on the same account to find out who is the ultimate general. The
I do like the idea of this.
By clicking the unique link below, will receive an exclusive gift of 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium account completely free. Don't miss out, as the offer is only available for 30 days, so click the link in the description below, choose your country, and start fighting your way to victory. At 8:30 PM on the 6th of April 1945, 10 ships of the Imperial Japanese Navy are approaching the southern end of the Bungo Channel off the coast of Japan. In the center of the task force is the largest
why are you so
battleship
big? Hold on. Why the fuck are you so big? Here it is. Options. Why is the font size so fucking big?
ever built, the mighty 72,000-ton Yamato. The Japanese have enjoyed an uneventful cruise so far, but the lead destroyer Isokaze now picks up a surface contact on radar, most likely an American submarine.
I like that name, the Isokaze.
Breaks off from the rest of the formation and heads southeast at flank speed towards the contact, which flees in the same direction. The chase goes on for 50 minutes before the contact is lost. At the same time, Yamato's communications room picks up a rare unencrypted US Navy transmission. Enemy task force headed south, course 190 degrees, speed 25 knots. The Americans are tracking Yamato's task force and don't care whether the Japanese know.
Actually, a fun thing, I know we sunk it. This will actually be a really cool video to watch because I've never actually looked into how the US sunk it. So this should be pretty cool.
Stares at the message and quips, "I do believe we learn about our position faster from their side than from ours." The following day will see the last major battle fought by the once proud Imperial Japanese Navy in the Second World War. Yamato and her escorts,
because their whole thought process was victory or death,
are on a one-way trip. 5 days earlier, on the 1st of April, the Allies landed on the island of Okinawa, the last stepping stone before the home islands of Japan itself. The invasion of Okinawa has forced the Japanese military to take desperate measures, most notably the mass deployment of kamikaze pilots who sacrificed themselves by crashing bomb-laden aircraft into American warships. When Emperor Hirohito is briefed on the invasion, he asks, "But what about the Navy? What are they doing to assist in defending Okinawa? Have we no more ships?" The Imperial Navy is now a shell of its former self, following a decisive defeat in the Battle of the Leyte Gulf. The Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet, Toyoda, feels pressure to contribute in some way.
Hey, Toyota!
This leads to the drafting of Operation Tengo, or Operation Heaven 1. The plan calls for the Super-Battleship Yamato and its escorts to fight their way to Okinawa and intentionally beach themselves, while waves of kamikazes will attack US warships. There, the small fleet will fight as massive shore batteries until each ship is destroyed. At the same time, the Japanese army will launch a counterattack to destroy the Allied forces on the island. In essence, the Yamato task force is to play the part of a naval kamikaze, where no sailor is expected to survive. Vice Admiral Ito has been tasked with leading the naval force.
That's one of those things that I don't understand. Like, I don't understand how the whole concept behind that is something that I conceptually just don't understand, of wasting that many lives. You know, like,
but
it's
refuses
strange
to
to
order
me.
his ships to carry it out, considering it to be a useless waste of lives. Yet,
Yeah, that's what it
still
seems like
leads
to
the
me.
fleet out of loyalty to the Emperor, and the breakthrough to the Okinawa landing beaches is set for the 8th of April. Meanwhile, the US Pacific Fleet is once again entirely aware of the Japanese plans. Navy codebreakers have intercepted and decoded the precise orders for Operation Tengo, allowing 5th Fleet Commander Admiral Raymond Spruance to set up a trap. He orders a task force of modern American battleships to intercept and destroy Yamato and her escorts. After receiving contact reports from the USS Threadfin, the submarine which shadowed the Yamato task force, Spruance puts his plan into action and decides to accompany the battleships so he can witness the end of Japanese naval power in person. However, Vice Admiral Mark
Ballsy.
Mitcher believes his powerful fleet carriers of Task Force 58 should have the honour of destroying the enemy. Spruance's orders for Task Force 58 are to defend against enemy kamikaze attacks, but Mitcher believes the order does not strictly forbid him from going after Yamato. While Spruance's warships form a battle line on the morning of the 7th of April,
I mean, I
Admiral
guess
Mitcher
technically
launches
not.
search aircraft to locate the enemy fleet. Thus, the hunt for Yamato is quickly becoming a race to see who can kill the mighty battleship first, the battleships or the aircraft carriers. At 8:30 am, a Hellcat fighter pilot from the carrier USS Essex spots the Japanese task force, nearly 300 miles to the northwest. With Admiral Mitcher suddenly indisposed with a minor heart attack, his Chief of Staff,
God damn,
Commodore
a
Arleigh
minor?
Burke, makes the call to prepare
Oh,
Task
Arleigh
Force
Burke.
58's air wings for battle.
That's cool.
At 10
Arleigh
a.m.,
Burke class
the first
destroyer.
wave of American
Yeah, that's
aircraft
dope.
lift off their carrier flight decks
I know that
and
name.
form up for the long flight to their target. Unwilling to miss the show, a visibly ill Mitcher makes his way to the bridge and confers with Burke. Much like the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the American aircraft will be pushed to the extreme end of their fuel range and only have minutes to form up and attack the enemy. Nonetheless, Mitcher decides to go ahead with the strike and orders Burke, "Inform Admiral Spruance that I propose to strike the Yamato Sortie Group at 1200 hours, unless otherwise directed." 300 miles to the northwest, the mood is tense aboard Yamato. At noon, Vice Admiral Ito and the ship's captain, Rear Admiral Aruga, received a report from the island of Amami Oshima that over 250 enemy aircraft are inbound on their position. The task force is about to be attacked from the air, and the Japanese warships will have no fighter cover. Now, each man feels the enormity of what is about to happen as they sail towards certain death. 3 days earlier, the crew was treated to a party while still in port, where the sailors toasted to each other's inevitable deaths. Some officers even drank British Scotch whisky seized after the capture of Singapore in 1942. The super-battleship Yamato had left port with some men still hungover, while many others had just finished writing farewell letters to their families. Ensign Yoshida Mitsuru wrote to his parents, "Please dispose of my things. Please, everyone, stay well and survive. That is my only prayer." He and the rest of Yamato's crew
Damn, what
were
a
called on
fucking
deck the
last
following
letter
day
to send your
be read
parents.
a message from Vice Admiral Ito. This task force of the Imperial Navy, in cooperation with the Army, is about to stake its entire air, sea and land might on an all-out attack against enemy ships in the vicinity of Okinawa. The fate of the Empire hangs in the balance. Unbeknownst to Vice Admiral Ito, the
And they
Japanese
failed.
army has not launched its promised counterattack on Okinawa, rendering their impending sacrifice pointless.
Wow, really? Why
But
not?
just before noon, the first US Navy strike aircraft spot the Japanese task force and relay the news back through the succeeding waves to Admiral Mitcher. The fighter squadrons, composed mostly of Corsairs and Hellcats, have arrived first and report that there are no Japanese aircraft in sight. With his forces standing by to attack, Mitcher sends another message to Spruance. "Will you take them or shall I?" A few minutes tick by until Mitcher receives his response, "You take them." The aircraft carriers have won the race to find the enemy. Now they must destroy them. The time is now 12:10 p.m.
And as we learned, the Yamato has horrible anti-air guns.
In Yamato's
So
communication
this is
room,
like the worst
Yoshida
case scenario
Mitsuru
for them.
is monitoring the air search radar when the screen suddenly fills with airborne contacts. On the bridge, Admiral Ito orders the formation to pick up speed and prepare to open fire with the 150 anti-aircraft guns aboard the Super-Battleship. However, the first target for the American assault is the destroyer Asashimo, which has fallen behind the main formation due to engine trouble. 6 Hellcat and an old Wildcat fighter from the USS San Jacinto nose over and attack the crippled destroyer with 500-pound bombs. The American fighters fail to score a direct hit, but the shock from the explosions of the near misses ruptures Asashimo's hull, and the destroyer quickly loses speed.
Oh,
the
shit.
fighters make several passes and strafe the deck, killing many sailors caught out in the open. 8 Avenger torpedo bombers attack at low level and drop their torpedoes in a perfect spread. Asashimo's captain takes evasive action and manages to avoid 6, but 1 torpedo impacts directly below the bridge, and another explodes in the engine room.
Oh,
The
it's
destroyer
split.
is cut in half and sinks within minutes, taking all 326 crewmen with her.
Damn. It's a
Meanwhile,
fucking
the rest
lot of death really quickly.
of the first wave
that's
is bearing
horrendous.
down on the main Japanese force, centered on Yamato. The US carriers launched 283 aircraft, but the strike group of the USS Hancock has gotten lost and will not take part in the action, leaving 227 aircraft to carry out the attack. A light rain begins to fall just as
Still
the
a lot
first
of
American
aircraft, though.
aircraft are spotted by lookouts in the Japanese task force at 12:32 p.m. Although the rain might ordinarily help Yamato and her escorts to hide from enemy air attacks, it is actually making it harder for the Japanese anti-aircraft gunners to spot their targets. 2 minutes later, Yamato opens fire with her 18.1-inch main batteries and increases speed from 24 knots to 27. The escorting destroyers also begin sailing around Yamato in an anti-clockwise circle to add their collective firepower.
Anti-clockwise. Counterclockwise, you mean? I've never heard the term anti-clockwise. Okay.
Much like the US Navy's attack on the Japanese carriers during the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the strike on Yamato's task force is chaotic. With so
God,
many
Yamato
aircraft at
truly
the
was
extreme
just
limit of their fuel
enormous
range,
compared to everything
each
else.
squadron dives into the attack at their own discretion, and radio discipline completely breaks down. With the lowest cloud cover at just 1,500 feet, the 227 aircraft in the first wave jockey for position to line up on the enemy battleship, nearly causing several mid-air collisions. At 12:37 p.m, the Corsairs and Hellcats are the first to commence their attack runs. Although their 500-pound bombs and machine guns can do little damage to the integral parts of the ship, the smaller munitions cause heavy casualties to the exposed anti-aircraft gun crews, while Yamato is putting up an awe-inspiring amount of flak, and the massive Sanchikidan anti-aircraft shells. Japanese fire is wildly inaccurate, thanks in part to the rainy conditions. The Hellcats and Corsairs continue to rake the deck, killing and wounding dozens of crewmen. High above, Helldiver dive bombers from the USS Bennington's VB-82 and the USS Hornet's VB-17 move into position to dive on Yamato. As the battle began, Vice Admiral Ito relinquished tactical command to Rear Admiral Aruga, who takes evasive action. Aruga expertly dodges the first dive bombers, and one of the Helldivers is even brought down by anti-aircraft fire. But the evasion does not last long.
Fuck.
At 12:40 p.m, a 1,000-pound armor-piercing bomb penetrates and explodes in the crew quarters. Seconds later,
that's a shitload
another
of damage,
bomb
ain't it?
demolishes the aft command station, which knocks out one of the air search radars and starts a fire which quickly consumes an aft 6-inch gun turret. Several near misses are also causing bulkheads to buckle, and Yamato begins to take on water. On the bridge, Rear Admiral Aruga and his subordinates curse the poor results of their anti-aircraft fire, as the American fighters continue to pepper the deck with deadly 50 caliber machine guns, and the Corsairs fire rockets into the superstructure. 5 Avenger torpedo bombers from Hornet's VT-17 approach from the port side, which draws the bulk of Japanese anti-aircraft fire. One is shot down, and another peels off to avoid fire, but the last 3 drop their torpedoes and pass overhead before disappearing into the clouds. A single torpedo hits Yamato at 12.
Like, this is really just putting in perspective how bad the anti-air capabilities were if they're just doing all this. And like none of the other ships are getting really fucked with at all during all this. It's all fuck this one ship.
12:45 p.m., causing
Also, sorry I'm being quiet. I'm like full on interested in this shit.
the
Sorry.
Super-Battleship to take on 2,235 tons of water, but
Holy
counter-flooding
fuck.
prevents her from capsizing.
It's lucky.
In an attempt to draw fire away from Yamato, the light cruiser Yahagi steers away from the formation, where she proves an enticing target. Just a minute after
Smart.
Yamato suffered her torpedo strike, more Avengers line up on the exposed light cruiser. She skillfully evades every torpedo until the last scores a direct hit on the engine room. Yahagi comes
now
to a
you're dead in the
complete stop
water.
as more American bombers prepared their attack runs. Before the day is over, she will take 6 more torpedoes and 12 bomb hits.
Nice
Seeing
try,
Yahagi
but
taking the
ultimately
pummeling, the destroyer Izokaze tries to come to her
useless.
aid, which only attracts more attention from the marauding strike aircraft. Izokaze is struck by multiple bombs, which also leave her dead in the water. Her sister ship Kamikaze has done an admirable job avoiding bombs and torpedoes until a near miss from a 1,000-pound bomb disables her starboard propeller. A minute later, a torpedo strikes amidships and blows Kamikaze in half. Ensign Mitsuru aboard Yamato watches the destroyer slip beneath the waves, and although there are many survivors,
Fucking super
none
quick
of the
right off the
Japanese
bat.
warships can afford to stop. A third of Kamikaze's crew of 357 will not survive her sinking. Meanwhile, the destroyer Suzutsuki is being attacked by Hellcats when a single 500-pound bomb blows her bow clean off. Despite the damage, she will be able to limp back to Japan after the battle by steaming backwards the entire way. The destroyer Kasumi also comes under attack.
Yeah, but I kind of want to. How were they treated when they came back, considering they didn't die like they were supposed to? Like, I can't imagine they were treated very well once they got back. I know plenty of soldiers who didn't die were treated very fucking harshly. Like, I can't remember if this was a true story or not, or even really vague. I vaguely remember how the fucking story went. Like, first you had the dude who survived both Nagasaki and Hiroshima, which, hats off to that dude. Motherfucker just would not stay dead. Good for you, bro. But also, I forget what it was. There's a story about a dude who didn't die and was like severely shamed because he didn't have the honor to die in battle or something like that. Or he was taken prisoner, something along those lines. I cannot remember though. But I think it's a fairly standard story.
The first wave of aircraft withdraw at 12:50 p.m, leaving a scene of carnage in their wake. Yamato has escaped without critical damage, but 2 destroyers have been sunk, with a light cruiser and 2 other destroyers badly damaged. 12 minutes later, Yamato's only remaining search radar picks up another wave of attackers. Almost none of her original 25mm anti-aircraft gunners are still alive, while replacements quickly prepare their gun mounts for action. Meanwhile,
not that it'll matter
conditions
much.
continue to deteriorate, as a steady rain adds to decks already slippery with blood. At 12:20 p.m, the second wave of 50 aircraft from the USS Essex and USS Bataan begin their attack runs, with the strike aircraft constantly buzzing over the super-battleship like hornets. Yamato's gun crews set the Sanshikidan shells to explode after only 1 second. Yet, much like the rest of the task
that's
force's
fucking
anti-aircraft
quick.
fire, this too is ineffective.
And wait, so Japan didn't have the VT fuse anymore, or yet? Or did then I can't remember. So they didn't. So they're still using timed fuses, unlike the Americans. Okay.
Corsairs armed with 1,000-pound bombs dive on Yamato, and one scores a direct hit on her bow. 12 Helldivers nose over and line up on the bridge area. 2 bombs penetrate amidships and explode within the armoured citadel, killing dozens of crewmen. With most of her escorting warships disabled or sunk, all of the remaining aircraft focus on Yamato, while her crew tries in vain to fight back. 10 minutes later, the third wave of 110 aircraft from the USS Yorktown, Intrepid and
Damn, they
Langley
all fucking
arrive
missing.
overhead, while the second wave is continuing to strafe the wounded super-battleship. 20 Avengers approach from the port side and release their torpedoes with the intention of capsizing the battleship on that side. Still moving at close to flank speed, Yamato evades all but 3, which strike in quick succession.
Oof.
3,000 tons of water pour into the ship, which once again begins to list. With Yamato in danger of capsizing, Rear Admiral Aruga makes an agonizing decision. Having already counter-flooded stabilizing compartments,
Abandon
he has no
ship?
choice but to immediately flood the starboard engine and boiler rooms without warning the men still at their stations.
Oh no.
At just before 1:40 PM, a tearful Aruga orders the counter-flooding, and 300 men are killed as they are overcome by the sudden onrush of water.
Oh, that's
The flooding
sad.
mostly corrects the list, but only temporarily. Now, the biggest problem is that Yamato has dropped from 27 knots to just 10. Seeing the massive warship listing to port, 5 more Avengers approach from the same side at 1:42 PM, concentrating their attack in this area in the hope of capsizing Yamato. Another Avenger is shot down, but 2 more torpedoes strike the port side, one of which knocks out the steering. Yamato is now locked in a turn to starboard, with nowhere left to run. Helldivers plant 4 more bombs into the superstructure area, which kills most of the remaining anti-aircraft gunners. 1 bomb penetrates into the warship's dispensary, and kills most of the wounded men and their doctors. The list to port quickly grows to 35 degrees, forcing the sailors still on.
God, this whole fucking what a waste of fucking life. Like, seriously.
To brace themselves against the nearest railing. Most of the guns have been knocked out, their crews cut to pieces by strafing fighters. At 2:02 PM, the executive officer, Captain Jiro Nomura,
and also a waste of
the ladder
resources
to the
for this
command
fucking
station
ship.
on the bridge. He finds Rear Admiral Aruga and reports, "The ship is sinking. I would like permission to abandon ship." The ship's captain seems completely detached from the carnage around him, forcing Nomura to repeat himself multiple times. Aruga finally nods his head and orders Nomura to go with the men. Without a working intercom system, messengers sprint from the bridge to pass the order to abandon ship by word of mouth.
Not a light thing to do for them.
Receives the same report and gives one final order to his staff: stop the operation, turn back after rescuing the men. Vice Admiral Ito then salutes his officers before retiring to his cabin, never to be seen again. Without any more working radios, his staff uses
not
signal
sending
flags
any
to
more.
alert the remaining ships in the task force that Operation Tengo has been cancelled.
Not sending any more men to their deaths.
At 2:05 PM, the burning hulk, which used to be the light cruiser Yahagi, finally disappears beneath the waves with her 445 crewmen. Meanwhile, the rest of the American strike aircraft continue to batter Yamato, while she slowly continues to capsize. 6 Avengers from the USS Yorktown reset their torpedo running depth from 10 feet to 20 feet in order to do more damage below the armoured belt. 3 of these torpedoes strike the super-battleship's port side, which is quickly beginning to submerge. When the list reaches 80 degrees, Ensign Yoshida Mitsuru decides to abandon ship. Just as he leaps to the water from his station on the bridge, Yamato's No. 1 magazine explodes with a deafening roar. The massive
It
fireball
would, they were
taking
fucking
down
huge.
At least 7 US Navy aircraft which are flying close to the ship.
Damn. Holy shit, the fucking explosion of your main gun detonating is more effective than your fucking AA.
An American pilot shouts, "There she blows," over the tactical radio frequency. The explosion is so large that the mushroom cloud is seen more than 100 miles away on the Japanese home islands.
You got it. Fuck me. No wonder it took out 7 of the fucking planes. If it's that fucking big, you could see it from the mainland? That's fucking insane.
Ensign Mitsuru miraculously survives and is later picked up by a Japanese destroyer. He is one of the lucky ones. Of the 3,352 crewmen aboard Yamato, only 297 survive.
No.
Altogether, 4,242 Japanese sailors have given their lives in a needless mission that was doomed from the start.
It was a fucking useless mission.
Hill, Vice Admiral Mitra writes messages of congratulations to each air group in his task force. "You have achieved a glorious victory. I am proud of you." Operation Tengo represents the last major battle fought by the Imperial Japanese Navy during the Second World War. Of the 10 ships which attempted to fight their way to Okinawa, 6 have been sunk, and the destroyer Suzutsuki so badly damaged that she will never be repaired. In the corresponding kamikaze strikes on the Allied fleet, 100 pilots have been lost, while only causing major damage to a single US destroyer. Yahagi's captain,
Fucking
Taneki
useless.
Hara, will say after the war that Operation Tengo was like throwing an egg against a rock. In contrast, the US Navy has lost 10 aircraft and 12 pilots killed. What remains of the Japanese Navy will never again sail out to meet the Allies in battle. Thanks again to our sponsor Conflict of Nations. Click the link in the description below to get your exclusive starter pack containing 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium account. Start your journey to global victory today.
This is good. I'm fucking, yeah, full on in on this. This was super fucking good. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I didn't even think about that. For ominously foreshadowing about a giant mushroom cloud visible on mainland Japan. That is true. This was really good. Make sure you check them out. I'll leave a link for it down below. This was super fucking good. Like and subscribe if you want to keep seeing me. Until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.